lantern, jaw shadow, microscope halo, petri dish tableau, stir plate cyclone, liquid gold whirlpool, feeding spore scripture through the culture school. Samantha with the steady hand, razor like a plan, shaves a sliver off the egger like a desert wind can. Jars clink hymns when the shelf choir hums, every lid's a sealed drum where mycelium comes. Keep spawning culture, roots in the rust belt soil, turn dust into kingdom with the clean room toil. From the block to the plate to the LC shine, every strand's got a story in the Mossy Creek mine. Yo, Mad Hat Hatchery, Pink Oysters Tap Dance, Lion's Mane Maneuvers with a heresy.
Hello, hello. There we go. I had it on mute. What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good day. I will give people some time to join me. I am also posting some things on my Patreon right now as well. So we're hopefully moving on. I do need to stop this because I actually have the live stream playing in the background, and that is causing a little bit of feedback. So, hey, well, awesome, man. I'm glad you've been waiting for one. Well, I'm sorry that you've been waiting for one, but I'm glad that you have been interested in there being another one, I guess is what I should say. Let's see. I want to got these posts done, and I'm not sure how you edit these things. So the Patreon's changed some stuff now. They have limited access. Like they've changed all these new settings, and they've moved all the buttons for everything. It's kind of weird, but it's fine. What's up, Carrie Gray? Good to see you as well. Glad you've joined me on this kind of, not quite impromptu, but I definitely did not get this thing scheduled the way I wanted to. Joe! What's up, Joe? No, Teddy, I'm talking to Joe. What's going on, Mr. Vino? I hope things are going well. At least I assume it's Joe, right? It wouldn't be anybody else. There we go. Yeah, it's... What's up, Andrew? Adrian? Not Andrew. I was reading, hey, Andrew. Adrian Rose. Andrew, hope you and the family are well. We are well. Thank you very much. We've been having a great week. We're teaching a mentorship this week, and so we've been hanging out with the guy who joined us all the way from Alaska, which is not the furthest anyone's come, but it's pretty far. We've had someone come from Thailand. I think that one's the one that takes the cake. Or maybe Belgium. Belgium or Thailand. I'm not sure which one. But yeah, we're doing great. We are getting to teach, which I really like. We are having the weirdest, most longest extended fall, I think, that we've ever had. Like, it's just, the weather's perfect. And I have lots of produce coming in from the garden, peppers and stuff. I started doing this thing where now every bag that bursts in my autoclave, which isn't very often, I'll get like every couple of runs, I'll get a bag or two or something like that bursts in our autoclave. And I was like, instead of putting these in the composter, I should totally put these in Facebook Marketplace and trade them for something, right? So I was like, well, what would trade them for? And I was like, chickens eat oats, right? So I've got hay sterilized oats and stuff, right? Sterilized oats will be good for that. So I put it up on Facebook Marketplace, and next thing you know, like today, I got 8 dozen eggs for about 3 5-gallon buckets worth of waste, grains, and sawdust. So it is just, they were happier than they could possibly be for that trade. And that's what I started doing right here. So, like, I've got eggs coming in and peppers coming in and tomatoes coming in. Well, I think my tomatoes are done. But I got figs coming right now. And the figs trees were a gift from a mentee from Texas. He sent us sent us up a fig tree that I've got growing in spit mushroom substrate out there. So I have a question about my wampus tongue culture. Yeah, ask away. No need to. No need. You go right into asking. What's up, Ogre? Glad to see you, Andre. Andre Kata. Hey, bro, love your content. Thanks for all the great info. It's a godsend. Well, I'm glad that I was helpful for you, man. Was wondering if you could tell me what temperature you keep in your grow room for optimally pinning king oysters. So, my grow room is pretty much open. It's out in the warehouse. We do have air conditioners that knock off a little bit of the worst of the heat. But if I'm going for king oysters and king oysters only, I only grow those seasonally. I grow those from fall to winter. 65 degrees Fahrenheit is the hottest I would want it for king oysters. I have a strain that'll fruit in the 70s, but really it does best 65 and lower. But I've grown king oysters from 65 or from 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Certain strains, 65 degrees for a little bit more of the strains that have a little bit more picky about their temps. And then I've grown them all the way down to freezing. And king oysters are one of those mushrooms I've noticed that will start growing. It'll freeze solid. And then when it warms up, they just keep growing. So now I can't say that, if they did that and they were frozen for like 5 months or something, I don't know if they'd keep doing that. But here we only get freezes, like hard freezes for a few days at most. Same here. Mushroom foraging here is crazy right now. Well, good. For us, it's been a weird year. Now, I do think that if I hit some of my Hericium honey holes, that we're going to see, like we're a little early. I would be wanting to do probably October 25th is when I would want to hit the Smokies, Cherokee National Forest, that kind of area. October 20th would be about what I want to do that for. And right now we're getting rain every day, and our temps are like in the 60s and 70s. So I think up there in the mountains, up in the Smokies, my like really close to the Smokies and some of the old growth forests that I like to go to, just outside the old growth. For some reason, I never find Hericium in old growth. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but for some reason, we seem to find most of our Hericium just outside the old growth. And there are tons of them up there. So like what I was saying is our mushroom season, it's just been weird. I've actually not gotten that much. Like I've barely gotten any reishi. This year we've gotten a lot of Xylaria, but it's all stuff I'm not used to seeing. So usually when I have a bag burst or break, I dump them into a sanitized bucket and mix with oyster spawn and grow it anyways. So I've kind of considered doing that, but honestly, I'm getting eggs, so I'm going with that because I'm getting all these people bringing me their backyard eggs. So like today, someone brought me 8 dozen eggs. I probably have 14 dozen eggs over there sitting right now. Now I give away eggs to the business partners. So like Charles and his significant other, Ben and Stephanie, Samantha and I, of course, eat eggs, and we're about to pickle them. My boys and I will demolish pickled eggs. So, actually, Hazeln will too. Ash Ketchum is like Ash Ketchum. Like, is that a play on a name, or is that your actual name? Because I'm interested. Because if you actually Ash Ketchum was the Pokemon master, or trying to be the Pokemon master. Big fan of the channel, learn a lot, and hope to do what you do one day. Well, thank you, man. Or man or ma'am, I don't know. I really appreciate that. You can do it. I started from nothing. I had I didn't even have 2 nickels to rub together. To give you an idea where I started, we needed a refill valve, right? So we decided probably be the cheapest to get a toilet refill valve to do what we needed to do. We couldn't afford one. So we went to the downstairs toilet of the house we were renting and stole one from it, and then used that to produce the mushrooms that we then sold to pay for to replace that valve, and then of course get us going. So yeah, if you got dedication and some creativity, you got this. Thanks, Ogre. But an odd question. Some of my liquid cultures almost look contaminated initially on agar. Looks like a little bacterial colonies almost. You said it initially, so they end up not being contaminated. Like they look contaminated, but then they aren't. What you could be seeing is what's called a water lens, um, or a metabolite lens. So as the mycelium is growing, it actually exudes a liquid. And so if the growth is fine enough that you can't see it yet, but there's a lot of moisture there, the mycelium is exuding, absorbing this metabolite. And then of course, if there's a lot of liquid there to play with, it's going to form, but it will literally form around the mycelium. You'll see it sometimes under a stereoscope when you get spores germinating on agar. You'll have a single filament reach out, and you'll have a water lens around it, like a metabolite lens. It's a zone of not exclusion. That's an antibacterial or antibiotic thing. I can't remember what the zone's called. Hopefully we'll see if we'll see Dr. Ed on, but that kind of thing. So it could be wet and not, look and not be bacteria. So temps outside are 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit and drizzle all week. Yeah, it's kind of like what we're having here. We might hit 80, but I don't think we've hit 80 in days, and that's weird for this time of year. You mentioned for some years now using the mushroom substrate for the garden. Don't you have to worry about attracting rats and vermin that want to eat the grain or burrow into the substrate? I've not had any problems in years and years and years, man. Usually, I mean, I do like squirrels might dig into it a little bit. I've never had like mice and rodents get to it. For the like, unless you're kind of going with what I do, which is a grain heavy substrate, you're probably okay for the most part because that'll get eaten up. The mushrooms empty out. Like if you've grown out grain spawn, and ever like smushed it, there's not much of that grain left. The starch is pretty much gone. So I've not really had any issues. Now, to be fair, people have problems with burrowing rodents here in their yard everywhere anyways. So maybe that's, the thing, but I've not had any issues. I've got all these tubs out here. I don't have any rodent issues. I do have some cats around here. So they're around here somewhere. But the cats hunt pretty well and keep the mice down as well. So I've not really had much of an issue. We also rot our stuff down a lot in those tubs. It's illegal to forage lion's mane here. You must be in Europe or somewhere in Europe because I know. Oh yeah, Adrian Rose, you're in England, I think. So yeah, I think all throughout Europe there's a pretty much it's like a protected species. It makes zero sense. Honestly, you want people cloning these things. And so hopefully, like if honestly, if they are endangered, which there's actually evidence that maybe they aren't endangered. Maybe that their life cycle makes them appear endangered, but there's a lot that we don't know about Hericium, such as why is it that when we go out and do blind prospecting and we find it, a lot of times it's in its haploid state, not its diploid state. So it's not even a full organism. There's some suggestion that by some people that Hericium may actually end up growing most of its life in its half an organism state. I guess it's still technically an organism, but not a sexually mature state. And then at some point later in its life, so like us growing it and it's constantly in its sexually mature state, may be why it's so prone to fruiting constantly, right? It just fruits and fruits and fruits and fruits. You grab a piece of fruit, and so it's already geared up for all that stuff. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. You want people collecting them. You want people holding on to them. Maybe not eating them, and that's what they don't want them destroyed. They want them to sit out there and rot and dump all their spores. But even then, you want people grabbing them, putting them in a mesh bag, walking through the woods and spreading those spores. In my mind. I'll meet you. It's in the 90s here. Not a lot growing here. Yeah. That's. I don't envy you, though. I do kind of, because like my nice long summer is gone. I injured myself halfway through the year, so I've been doing well. I've been injured to the point I can't go out kayaking, so it's been just a freaking mess. I hurt myself weightlifting. I completely pulled my Achilles tendon on my right leg. And it will not heal It keeps getting close. Like right now, it's aching, and I've not weightlifted in 2 weeks. Oops, didn't mean to in the comment there. It almost looks like a bunch of bacterial colonies on the agar plate, which then later seem to actually be mycelium, but I can't tell if maybe there's a bacteria. So I mean, it sounds like you're actually doing okay. A lot of times those agar tests are what you want. Of course, always taking it down your production system to fruit will tell you more. Maybe there's a bacteria that just gets overgrown, or would bacterial contamination typically show up as a greasy stain everywhere the liquid touch? Greasy is typically yeast. Yeast tend to have a higher lipid content, which makes them fattier, and therefore gives them a greasier look. But for what it sounds like to me, you just have a lot of liquid. Now, I'm not sure if this is my liquid culture. Most of the time, my liquid culture now doesn't have that because it's so thick. But sometimes we have some cultures that are a little thinner, certain species and things. But if you're getting them from somewhere where, let's say, it's a lot of clear LC and you can see just like a little cloud body in it or something like that, a lot of times that's got a lot of liquid. So one thing that you can actually do is put a few drops on your plate and then find where you can see the solids, go somewhere close to there, and then suck back up with the syringe your liquid, and that'll leave a lot less liquid in the agar plate. So no worries, man. Hey, man, hope all is well. Question, what do you recommend to darken agar? Trying to see mycelium on water agar. So you've got a couple of different things. You have activated charcoal. Activated charcoal powder will make it turn black. But on water agar, you're probably going to be growing pretty wispy. It's going to be hard to see on that black. So something that I like to use, in fact, I'll just pull it up here. Share screen. All right, so right here, so I usually will get this stuff right here, like the royal blue, a few drops of that in a flask will end up giving you all the food, the color that you need for agar when you're pouring it. And you can pick any color. I find blue and green work really well. Reds, actually, mycelium eats up the red like crazy. So if you're trying to make a contrast, the red is not as useful because it goes by so quick. That's basically it. The gel works out really well. I think it's a type of, what do they call that? Something alcohol. But that's what I would use, is that the food grade, any sort of food grade food coloring will work. You can use powder, you can use the liquid or the alcohol suspended, but I find that the gel is the easiest one. So in regards to the toilet valve, what you're saying is that to succeed at mushroom growth, the secret ingredient is crime. No, when I say stole, I meant in the colloquial sense, not stole it. Our landlord gave us permission to do all of that stuff. So, in fact, our roommate or whatever was Ben, who runs Man of War now on the other side of the warehouse, and that was his dad that owned the house. So we were in the clear, legally speaking. When I say stole, I mean like we went down, took it, and then done. Hey man, what is the best price for grow bags? How do I send you a woodier mushroom to your mycology? Okay, so the two different questions. Gotcha. I'm going to go backwards. I have on my website, there is a page called the Mycologium. It has instructions on it. Woodier, if you can get the culture, then that's the easiest way, is for you to clone it, send me the culture, and then request the culture in return off my website. And I'm happy to do that. But you can just look up our shop address and mail it to us. Now, if you're trying to send me the mushroom, probably the easiest way is if you can get it while it's still on a piece of wood, let it dry out, and then ship it to me that way. And when it gets to me, I can rehydrate it because wood ear will dehydrate, rehydrate in a fashion that makes it last a really long time. So that's probably the easiest way for wood ear is to get me the culture. If you can't get the culture, then send me a piece of the stick with the mushroom on it. Sending me the stick means that it actually gives me some thallus, which is the mycelial part of the mushroom. Thallus is its body, right? So, but send me some of the mycelium that's in the wood. Is usually the easiest way for wood ear. I find that wood ear it tends to be very difficult to get a good clean sample, at least for me, unless they're big and thick. But like a lot of the ones in the United States are pretty small, unless you get what's called like the Judea's ear or whatever. I can't remember. There's one I can't remember the scientific name, but there's one that's a big version of it. It's like a jelly fungus of some sort. That's where we're at, starting from nothing. I love all your old videos showing y'all's ingenuity and how you cut labor. I'm building an old school Son of Thor and Mousetrap bucket right now. Nice, man. Yeah, well, that's you should look into the Thor kit. It's a lot cheaper. It comes with instructions. You got to build your own not water system. Well, it's probably still expensive if you're in the building stages and you don't have two nickels to rub together. That might be a little difficult, but there are a lot of versions built on that. But you might call Ben, at least check and see if there's some sort of option that you can work with them on, or whatnot. I know he's got some plans for building those things. He's got a Thor kit and he's got a Thor continuity kit. So there's a bunch of cool stuff that you can play with. But yeah, if you got to build it, build it. I'm all for that. Then we're going to give him a mohawk, though. You should, and give him a new name. As if you're building something new, even if it's a variant, give him a new name. Naming is a sacred act for humanity. Some people have been gifting me spore prints from local wild mushrooms to grow. What's the easiest way to isolate a viable monoculture? I'm thinking scrape on agar, spawn, fruit, clone, best fruit. When you say a monoculture, are you... there's two ways I can think of this, but are you asking how do you get a strain? Like a strain that can fruit, or are you looking to get like literally monos? Mono. Oh my gosh, my brain stopped working all of a sudden. Mono. Oh my gosh, I've been talking all day. Monocaryons. Are you looking to basically get a bunch of half strains? And if that's the case, you're going to need to do something called serial dilution, a spore dilution. There are a lot of great texts online about that on the serial dilutions. One of the easiest ways, honestly, if you're looking for it, would be to go check out the breeding series by Gary Herfeffel of Fresh from the Farm Fungi's YouTube channel. I think Dr. Ed Grand has some videos on or some live streams, though they may be harder to search through unless he's got specific videos. Though I think I saw that he was doing a demonstration on there at some point. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking for that, if you're looking for just like how you want a single strain or a collection of strains, the spores are super easy. You can just put some spores in water, drop a couple of drops on a plate, and then watch, and then whatever grows out of that, you just clone, and you'll see colonies form, and they'll have zones of exclusion around them where another colony will grow, and they'll start to grow like around each other, but they won't grow in between. That's called a zone of exclusion. That's how we actually measure. It's one of the primitive ways to measure bacterial resistance or bacterial effectiveness in plates, is that you basically infect a plate with some sort of bacteria, like in the center, let's say, and then you'll take a bunch of wafers that are soaked in different antibiotic liquids, and you can put them in an array around that bacterial colony, and as it grows out, the stronger the antibiotic, the bigger the zone of exclusion around it. So you can do that with spores to just make a bunch of colonies, and then you can just clone each one of those colonies out. You can drop the whole plate in a block and watch which one fruits, and then just clone that. Yeah, that's basically what I'm thinking, if you're wanting to do the monokaryotes and you want a library of monos, you're going to want to do what's called serial dilution. You could also call it a spore dilution. So if you like Google spore dilution, serial dilution, or spore serial dilution, there'll be a ton. It's a basic microbiological technique. So you do this if you are measuring water quality. Let's say you're doing a test of what's growing in a certain body of water. You don't just dump that water on a plate. You'll actually take it and then do a series of serial dilutions, and then take each one of those to plate. And then what you're looking for is a growth curve. You're doing it with if you're doing it like, let's say UV, you'll take spores, put them in water, put them on a plate, blast it with for 3 seconds with UV. Take another plate, same spore, different spore solution, or it's the same spore solution, just like you make your spore solution up, you'll squirt it in like 3 dishes. And you'll take those dishes and then you'll UV blast it for 3 seconds, the next one for 5 seconds, the next one for 8 seconds, right? And you'll put those droplets of water on agar. And then what you're doing there is a kill curve, right? Is the 3 second, 5 second, or 8 second one, is the 8 second one have no growth? You basically killed it off. 5 seconds got like 5 colonies in it, and the 3 seconds got like 20 colonies in it, and the control that you made is just completely overgrown, that kind of thing. I hope I explained that well. I feel like I kind of rambled on, but yeah, I'm in the UK. It's classed as endangered here, but we can collect spores. Ooh, okay. Well, if you can spore print, that's the way to go. That's the way to get your genetics. Absolutely, that would be the way to just spore print. Is it normal for the wampus tongue to look cloudy in Dr. Solarians? I have WT BS364 other strains LC, but it's the only one that isn't clear. So it can look cloudy, but it's not going to look milky. So if it looks milky, that I wouldn't count that as good. That one probably contaminated somewhere in your process. The wampus tongue BS26 and 4 other strains in LC. That's the only one that isn't clear. Now, some species, some strains will just not be clear. But it shouldn't. It should, like a milky would not, like milk. If I say the term milky and you're like, that's it, then probably bacteria in there. Have you ever had grain spawn that smells super sweet like apple juice or cider? I'm thinking it's bacterial infection. It's pink oyster. I have, but it's not always bacterial. But I have had it where it smells like cider. When we used to ferment our grains on purpose, we actually had somebody that told us that it smelled like apple cider, or like it smelled like apples going bad or something like that. And the spawn was good, but it was from the fermentation before because we were soaking our spawn at the time. I live in Denmark, and oyster prices selling to consumers is like $6 per pound. For lion's mane, it's $10 per pound. Meanwhile, labor is like $25 per hour. Any tips? So when you say it's selling to consumers like $6 a pound, is that at the grocery store? It sounds to me like you guys might have some sort of subsidizing going on somewhere. And I know Europe is far more into the culinary mushrooms than like America is. So, but I will say $6 a pound, $10 a pound, that's like restaurant prices for me. So if you can, as long as you can sell it and labor being $25 per hour, you should be fine. That really should be okay once you get going. Just make sure that whenever you do your man-hour tracking, that you keep up with how many hours it takes you. And even if you don't pay yourself $25 an hour, you need to track that and count that into your cost of everything. But yeah, I mean, like, let's see. If you did like, my labor was $15 an hour when I ran the oyster block profits analysis back in the day. I was doing a new one today, and I was doing my labor at $20 an hour and my crop at $10 a pound. $8 to $10 a pound. I did both. So, I mean, that right there gives you an idea that's the way to go. Like that's very possible. So I'm way broke. Yeah, I understand. Oh man, I completely understand. Yep, I meant an isolated dicarion. Oh, okay, isolated dicarion. Okay, so I went way more complicated than you probably needed to. Uh, I live in Denmark. A normal wage is at least $20 per hour. Most mushrooms don't sell for more than $5 to $7 per pound to chefs and consumers. Well, I mean, like to chefs for sure. Consumers, um, I would be really surprised if your mushrooms are $5 to $7 a pound to retail. But you could absolutely make a business at this. I've seen people make a business at this at $3.50 a pound. They got to grow 3,000 pounds a week to make the living, but you can do it. The margins in mushrooms are pretty insane. Now, does that make it easy? No, it's not always easy. Does that make it that you can count on that crop every time? Not necessarily. There's a lot that goes into this, and there's a lot that can go wrong. But your margins are what protect you here for a lot of that stuff. Now, Europe, I don't think your margins are going to be anywhere as good as America's. But if I cut my margins in half, it would still be worth growing mushrooms. Now, it would still be worth growing mushrooms. That said, I would definitely be having a harder time. I definitely. But again, let me put this in perspective. Let's put your wage at $20 per hour. Okay. What did I have my? Give me 1 second to do the math because it's doing the math in my head is going to be harder, especially when I'm focused on being here. So, okay. You have your man hours. It takes us with the bagger. It took us about an hour to do 120 12-pound blocks. Okay. So you got an hour in production, loading the steamer, etc. Then you have your lab work, which it took us, Samantha and I, let's just say it took us 2 hours, but that wouldn't be the case. And this is with 2 people, so you got 2 man hours there. Let's say 2 more or 4 more man hours in the back. So 6 man hours. And then with the grow room, and let's just say, actually, okay, I know how to do this. I'm sorry. I apologize for making this harder than it needed to be. But let me just pull up my numbers here. My old simplified numbers. Oyster block profits. And of course, I spelled it profits, Prophet. Got it. All right, now I need to find my secondary one of these. I don't want to show you guys what you call it, my numbers and stuff, or not my. I don't want to show you guys my drive, but I'll pull up the sheets real quick and then show you guys. So let's go. Okay. Okay. So, how do I get you to see this again? Share screen. And okay. Now you can see this right here. This is a very simplified. This was just the collection that I've got here. So let's just say that you have your labor at $1.50 per block. That was at $15 an hour. So I had roughly, that it cost me $1.50 in total labor. This is from production to mushrooms delivered. This counted my insurance costs and all that kind of stuff and everything. In the other sheet that I've got, this one is just the itemized cost of a block. Now, it was $3.63 back then. This is an old sheet. And it was $1.50. So let's just say that we bump that up to $25 an hour instead of 15. That's only going to be, or that's just going to be 2.5, right? That's going to increase my cost to $2.50, making my block. Let's just say it's another dollar. It'd make my 12-pound blocks $4.63 a block. Now, if we look at this other one, in fact, I'm going to pull your message down just so I can show this. The next one, at the stage. All right, right here you can see this. I want to. All right, so over here we have the block cost was $3.68. Let's just say it's $4.68, right? So if I go over here and I change this to $4.68, because we increased the cost by $1, remember? Bam, cost $9.65. My margin is still 57%. My markup is 133%. This is with my mushrooms being sold at $8 a pound. So my revenue went down to $22.50 from there. So my total, that's going to be the profit there. So my total profit being $12.85, right, per block. Now I could go. I've still got margin to eat before I become anywhere close to a regular farm. Most farms are, what was it? So the tomato farmers here, talking to them, and when you talk to them and they're like, yeah, I'm happy. They're ecstatic when they get a 3% margin. Now, granted, that's a commodity tomato. That's commodity crops. And commodity crops are always going to have thin margins. But boutique farming, which is what they call what we do, I hate that word. I don't know why I hate the word boutique. I guess it just sounds like it's like belittling. Though there's nothing necessarily belittling about being a boutique. But the point is that we end up producing an immense amount of food for such a small space. It's really quite crazy. And the margins on this kind of stuff, I don't remember what the margins on microgreens typically are, but it's much lower. So I think that you absolutely can make a living with this. Prices are going up too, like $8 a pound. There are still people asking $8 a pound for their mushrooms. Most mushroom farmers right now are just eating into their margins, growing a little bit more for the inflationary costs. So they're offsetting their costs by just squeezing out a few more pounds. And then chefs are going crazy for mushrooms because mushrooms have either stayed at the same price while everything else is going up. I mean, the price of beef is insane. So we're getting a lot of market fluctuation going on. The agricultural market's in turmoil. Who knows what's going to happen with our soybean contracts since they've been mostly canceled from China. I think China buys like 40% of our soybeans. Who knows what's happening to these commodity farmers? Most of us boutique farmers are still doing okay. I don't know how you would ever leverage yourself up out of commodity farming. My son's girlfriend's family is into beef. They produce beef. And right now they're increasing their herds, like their herd like crazy, which makes sense. Though, I mean, right now's the time to sell. But if they want to build anyways. So, and of course, the price for beef isn't going to come down for a while. So chefs are looking for how do I increase how far my meat will go. Well, I buy mushrooms, and when you add mushrooms added a lot of umami flavor, some texture, some other things. And granted, I don't think mushrooms make good meat replacement. I'm not one of those people. Meat is meat. Mushrooms are mushrooms. I like both of them for what they are. Mushrooms can't replace meat. Meat can't replace mushrooms. But you can add the two together and stretch them both out a little further because of how they interplay with each other on the dish, on the plate. So I think chefs are going to be buying more and more, especially if the economy gets any rockier. Who knows if it will or not. I think it'll get rockier before it gets better, though I do think that we're going to get better eventually. And yeah, I think that's going to be the way to go. So things like enoki, shiitake, in particular, I'm leaning really heavily into enoki and shiitake right now because I'm seeing oyster farms pop up everywhere. And I don't really necessarily want to compete. I don't want to take someone else's living. Like I've been at this long enough that it's easier for me to produce shiitake and enoki than it is those guys. So that kind of thing, like there's absolutely ways to do this. Though if I was first starting off, I would totally lean into oysters and lion's mane, Hericium especially, because Hericium is so fast. So to isolate a single viable strain, I can just scrape spores directly onto agar, then maybe do agar to agar, or agar to grain and grain to bulk, then clone fruits. You can. I wouldn't want to go agar to grain. I think I would just go agar to bulk. And then just let it, because you're going to have competing colonies. So it's kind of like PF Tech, right? Like you would just basically be doing PF Tech, but with oysters or lion's mane. It's not quite PF Tech because you're not, but you could just inject spores into a sterilized block. I mean, I've done that plenty of times. So there are absolutely ways. Like it's really not that hard. People make it a lot more complicated because they think it's going to be more complicated. But like if you just want some interesting strains, it's pretty easy to, like, if you want to get it, you've got spores or something and you want a viable strain off of it, just put some spores. Like I've literally taken a piece of paper that had a spore print on it, folded it, and then just kind of did like that and just sprinkled spores onto it. You can do a swab and do what's called a spore streak. You kind of start like this and then you go down. And then what you can do, what's really fun is if you want to cross a mushroom, so you take two mushrooms, you take a swab from each spore print, you go like this on one dish, turn it 90 degrees, go like this again, and you're going to have a series of cross hatching patterns. And then you basically, every time you see growth in the cross hatch, not in the long sections, but in the crosses, you clone that out to a dish. You might have 4 or 5 strains come off that. You then isolate those strains out into new dishes, and bam, now you've got 5 new strains that are hopefully crossed. It's not 100% that you're going to cross it like with the monocaryons, but it's like, if you try to breed a mushroom to itself, there's all kinds of safety features it has to basically kill it, those offspring off. And a very small, you might have like a 5% chance or something, of getting some, or 25, who knows. But if you try to take 2 mushrooms that are unrelated, granted, they have to have opposite allele mating types. But if they're unrelated, they're very likely to have unrelated alleles, or not copies of the same allele, the mating types. But if you breed a mushroom to itself, it's very likely to have the same mating types, right? Because you're just using the same alleles. So I hope that makes it simpler for you, man. Do you still trade cultures 1-to-1, by the way? I'm foraging for Danish oyster lines. I do, absolutely, for the Mycologium. So if you can get those to me, I can get those to you. And that's all good. I will say that we're having a little bit of trouble getting cultures to Europe right now, and Mexico. Mexico seems to be on some sort of retaliatory tear right now, where they are, where they was like, we literally sent this guy a package 3 times to Mexico, and they're destroying it, trying to charge him rent, etc. I'm about to pull a Jacob Wolves for him. I'll remove those chats, and it did nothing. I wanted to redo them. Which chats? If I find any silly Cybins, do you accept them? You mean like strain-wise? Or like just random stuff? If it's wild, there is a chance that we do. You would need to call me. We would need to talk about what we need to do for that. It is not, so for research purposes, there are certain things, like Alan Rockefeller was driving through with his collection. He doesn't normally get in trouble with his collection, but in Tennessee, he did get in trouble with his collection. Now, I think that he ended up getting his collection back. So, and it's because in large part they could tell he had like a single mushroom of each type. It wasn't like he had bags and bags and bags and bags of this stuff. So they, there are ways to do this. Um, that said, I'm not really a person that handles those strains. So what I would probably do is if you called me and said you had something, I would find you someone in Colorado that I trust. The full canopy guys are guys that I would work with probably on that. Kyle, I'd probably work with. Sam from Shroom Squatch, I would work with. Alan out in California, if he's looking for stuff, I don't know if I don't think he cultivates. I think he just collects. But the easiest way to do this, I would absolutely accept spore prints for this, but then I would probably just end up divvying those spore prints out to the guys who have legal means to do this. I live in Tennessee. Tennessee is very conservative, so I would probably not cultivate that stuff out. I might clone it and then ship it immediately, that kind of thing, just to do it. But I wouldn't be holding on to that stuff. Just because Tennessee comes down so hard on everything. Mushrooms tend to be cheap as they are imported from Spain with much cheaper labor. Not a big mushroom market either, so not much demand. Really, I figured that'd be a high mushroom area. And it's your inputs could be higher. I see that you said that too. So, there's you would definitely have to sit down and, like, for me to be able to do it, I would need more information to help you do a cost analysis, a market analysis, and to see what you're going to be doing. And for those, I would need to do a consult. I'm not gonna suggest that you do a consult because I think there's a lot of the legwork that you could do probably pretty quickly. So I would look at non-chain local restaurants. They could be like regional chains. Regional chains will usually work with you, but I mean, you want to just find stuff like, even if it's owned by, like, we have restaurants here that are owned by Ruby Tuesdays Corporation, but it's an independent restaurant. It's not the chain Ruby Tuesdays, that kind of thing. There are cheaper ways to get your inputs. Now that said, you would need to look into some of the legalities, because I don't know if Europe more tightly controls that mushroom production. This is one of the things that I don't like about the non-free market economy of Europe, even though, I recognize that there needs to be some protections, but it's just that they really tightly control stuff. And then it's like they set the stuff up to where it's like, okay, in Spain, we're going to produce really cheap mushrooms and then ship them everywhere else because we're subsidizing this stuff. We're subsidizing the labor is cheaper and the blah, like it I don't know. There's a lot to work with there, but I won't get on my East Tennessee high horse. If lion's mane is going in with a reddish hue, what is the problem? CO2, light, or humidity? If Michael, if you mean like when it's growing, it gets kind of a pink hue to it. That's good. That's good. It's just young. Just let it keep growing. It'll whiten up. It's not normally a problem. That's normally if it's a little pinky, it's one of the species. There's a species that does that more than the others, but that's not uncommon. That's very much a strain thing. So we had our first flush of your Appalachian Gnocchi a few days ago. It was glorious. Radko, thank you very much. I'm very proud of that find. That find was by Ben Erickson of Manowar, actually. So he and his wife go out running and hiking, and they always find mushrooms and bring them back to me. And that was one he found, and that's been a good one. And our white gold. Oh man, I just got a whole box of that stuff. Ugh, I can't wait to like, it's starting commercial. We've already started commercial packing of it. I can't wait till it's hitting the grow room. Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome, and I'm happy to share the information. I just hope it's useful. As a side note, any idea how to increase interest, demand in mushrooms when you live somewhere with relatively little interest in them? I know guys that went for it but went under due to a lack of demand. The biggest thing is samples, man. Samples. Samantha used to go to market. It used to drive me crazy because I'd be sitting there, and she's been doing the markets for a few weeks. I decided to show up to one. I'd get there and she'd be like, "Yeah," they'd be like, "I don't know if I like mushrooms." She's like, "Here, take it home." And they're like, for free? And she's like, yeah, if you hate it, then don't ever come back. If you love them, then you'll start buying. And I got so mad. And then the next week I showed up and she had people show up and going, I'm buying mushrooms and I'm paying for the ones I got last week because I enjoyed them so much. You can't give away everything for free, but I used to, when trying to get new chefs, I gave away whole cases. I didn't give them a cluster or a piece of a cluster or, just to give them I gave them a full case. Use this baby up, put it on some specials, make some money off this thing. And then I hope that means you're coming back for more, that kind of thing. Help them make money. That's the biggest thing. Chefs want to make money. Show them you're interested in helping them make money and how you're going to help them make money. Very excellent point earlier, by the way. Beef prices have exploded recently. Hadn't thought of that. Makes mushroom prices look a lot more reasonable. And it's good synergy. Absolutely. And you can be the premium guy, too. Like, there's nothing wrong with going, my mushrooms are $1 more per pound. Why? Because I'm premium. I'm worth it. For, honestly, you looked at my margin. It was 57, percent or whatever at $25 an hour. Now, let's say that you took... and that wasn't really quite a fair comparison because we actually needed to get in the numbers, but you know what I mean. That was very napkin math. But there's nothing wrong with going, if you put for every dollar, 50 cents, whatever you put, that's pure profit, right? So you can if you sell fewer mushrooms, but you're getting a higher profit for them, that's okay. Because this isn't about growing as many mushrooms as possible. This is about making a living, doing something you love. And if you follow that pathway, I'm doing this to make a living. I'm doing this to take care of me and mine. As you go along, you'll find that other secondary goals, like I want to feed as many people as possible good food. The more you take care of yourself, the more people you can feed. Like it just keeps building on itself and building on itself like that. And so, I'm not saying be selfish. Like if you're a selfish person, maybe don't follow that advice. Don't make it all about you. But I'm just saying, like the system is set up to take care of us. Like if you're thinking about other people and you care about other people and you want to provide good food and you want to do all these things, then yeah, you just like straight up like, I make myself stronger so that I can take care of more people. That kind of thing. I keep having bags colonize most of the bag rather quickly and then the very bottoms of the bags very slowly, especially the pesky little corners. What would cause that? Too much moisture in your bag or your shelving being cold. Either one of those. Sometimes it could be compression of the sawdust. It's very rarely that, though, if you're shaking well. But those are the main issues for that. For the Spain stuff that is free, the free market working, grow where labor is cheap and export. What? You can come in. For the Spain stuff that is the free market working, grow where labor is cheap and export. It's more local version of the U.S.-China thing where companies build on China, export, no subsidies. Oh, okay. Well, if it's no subsidies, but still, why are your wages so high where you're at? Why is the cost of living so high? I would about bet it's not because of free market principles. Which then, again, affects why Spain's so cheap, right? If they're putting in less. It's kind of like here with Tennessee. We are one of the lowest wage states in the union, and yet our cost of living is so low that you can make it. There is that. What? Well, not anymore. I will say rent here is getting absurd, like residential rent. All right, guys, give me a second. I'm going to do a quick sponsor, and then I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on tonight, but we'll do a quick sponsor, come back and see if there's any questions.
Introducing the future of mycology, Dr. Silurian's elixir of mycelial mastery. This isn't your average culture mix. It's a revolution in a packet, crafted for the dedicated cultivator seeking unparalleled growth. Experience the visual alchemy of this masterful brew. As you mix 10 grams with 500 milliliters of water, watch the solution transform into a rich amber spectacle. the hallmark of a nutrient-dense sanctuary for your burgeoning mycelium. This is where vibrant color meets vibrant life, setting our elixir apart from the ordinary clear liquid cultures. Prepare to be captivated. Mix 10 grams of Dr. Silurian's elixir with 500 milliliters of water, add a stir bar for thorough integration, and sterilize the blend at 15 psi for 45 minutes. Once cooled, introduce your favorite culture into this perfectly prepared, nutrient-rich environment. Watch in awe as the elixir works its magic, unveiling a mycelial masterpiece before your eyes. Choose Dr. Silurian's Elixir of Mycelial Mastery for a mycological adventure that's as visually enchanting as it is potent.
All right. Welcome back to my presence. I've been told to compress the block as much as possible after spawning to speed up colonization, but that seems counterintuitive to me. Do you recommend leaving the bags loose after spawning? Yeah, I don't compress. We do a little pat, so when we put them on the shelves, but we shake it, get the bag fluffed up, and then as soon as we put it on the shelf, we pat, 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 pat. And that's it. We don't really do anything. I'll tell you right now, anytime you're going to ask me, hey, should I do this or not do this? I'm going to say, don't do that. And see if your mushrooms still grow, right? And for you rip out everything. Every step that you're taking that isn't adding value to the end product is a waste. And be ruthless in removing waste. The only time, I understand there's ethical. Be ethical, obviously. But is that good bologna? You know, I got the bologna to make sandwiches. Well, then why are you eating it? No bread. You're wasting the bologna. You're making it a square? Really? Is that really what you're doing? Samantha, you cracked me. You cracked me up. Yeah, I like that part. And when I make my sandwich, and when the bologna overlaps, I just kind of nibble all the little bologna pieces off. So I guess I square it up too. I just do it on the bread. That's my bad. Buttons wants some. He wants some bologna, Samantha. Buttons wants some bologna. Sorry, Gus. I'm having too much fun over here. Just got your gold leaf and the Pathfinder in the other day, and a couple strains of Gary. Oh, strains off Gary, not of Gary. From Fresh from the Farm Fungi. Really enjoyed trying out new shit, dude. Let me know how it goes for you. I haven't looked at Gary's strain stuff. He really wants that bologna. He wants it. Oh gosh, yeah. Let me know how this stuff from Gary goes. I'm very interested. I haven't looked at his strain page in a while, and I need to. I haven't been looking at anybody else's content or anything. I need to do more. Excuse me. I'm getting ready to do my first 10-pound test bags for lion's mane, and I want to test a range. Sorry, hold on. My ADHD kicked in. I'm getting ready to do my first 10-pound test bags for lion's mane. I want to test a range of rations for the mix. What have you found to be effective? Substrates, like ratio strips on the substrate. Gosh. Hericium, in my opinion, and in my data, really seems to prefer a slightly less rich substrate. So shiitake and oysters and things like that, though shiitake can also take, many of the strains can take less nutrition as well and do really quite well. But shiitake right now, I'm fruiting on the 50-50-50 mix. The oysters, the same thing, enoki, and even the lion's mane I'm doing that way. But lion's mane, you can get away with a lot more, like a 65-35. So, there's that. But I mean, the Masters mix works really well. The water crystals work really well. Especially like the largest lion's mane I've ever gotten was a 5-pound single mushroom off of a 17-pound block that still only had 5 pounds of substrate in it, but the 12 pounds of water for my 12-pound blocks, I would normally do 5 pounds of dry sub, 7 pounds of water. You add an extra 5 pounds of water in the form of water crystals, and all of a sudden you can get like a 5-pound lion's mane, that kind of thing. Now, I don't really do water crystals just because I don't find there's really an effective way to dose them, but I know a lot of people that I've taught that. Actually, for lion's mane specifically, we'll use the water crystal still. So, and some people don't like it because they, it's there's different types of water crystals. You have polyacrylamide. I don't remember what the other ones are, but acrylamide can be a neurotoxin, but polyacrylamide is actually a very stable molecule. And acrylamide itself is not very stable. It's a monomer. And polyacrylamide is the polymer version, which stuff. Oh, new stuff. I've been having issues with getting LC to work. Tam, how long do you sterilize your LC for and at what PSI? 15 PSI. I do mine for about an hour. Hour and a half. I think today I actually ran it out an hour and a half. And then asked Samantha, I was like, what have you been running liquid culture at lately? Because she's the one that stocks everything for me. So I just go in and rip through the work. And I think she said, I've been cooking it for an hour. I was like, oh, shoot. Sam square in the circle. That's true. Yeah, she's taking that round baloney. Hey, nerd. Welcome to have you. And you too, Massmofo. I don't think I said hi when I saw you. Autocorrect fails me all the time, man. I must be weird because autocorrect never knows what I'm trying to say. I'm spotting your gold leaf oyster at the moment and have Pia Pino and Tribbles in the way. Very excited. Do you have any specific pointers for these strains? Gold leaf oysters are going to be easy. So not really. You just treat it like any oyster, man. You'd be great. Pia Pino, go low and slow. I wouldn't switch over a ton of your production to it all at once. I'd ramp it up. I like to overspawn Pia Pino so it'll grow in faster. But as far as Pia Pino goes, you can do, excuse me, for Pia Pino, it likes it warm. So I would keep it warm. And then Tribbles is easy. It's a little slower than some of your fastest lion's manes, but it's dense, toothy, and those extract compounds are mighty fine. So, so for lion's mane, when you go to initiate the fruiting, we used to call it the shaka. You would right here, you do a single slit down a 10-pound bag. If you're doing a 5-pound bag, you obviously do one much shorter. But for oysters, I like to do the U-cut so that there's that flap that keeps the moisture close, and then the oysters can push it up as they form. But the lion's mane, I like to just do a slit. We used to do a little punch, just with a knife blade. But I find that the hericium can get bigger if it's got a larger section it can grow out of. And then Pia Pino, I like to top fruit just in the bag. How to grow a nice beard like yours? I don't know, man. I just stopped shaving. I brush my beard out every day, and mine's really bushy right now. I need to go to somebody and get them to clean it up, put a straighter edge on it, and make it look nice. I also need to cut the sides here because this is the problem with this style of haircut where you get it long on top and then the sides are shaved. Is you got to constantly keep it down, and I need Samantha to do that for me. I guess I might have to give it up here in a second. Last question from me today. That doesn't have to be, but What would you say are the most interesting, unique mushroom species that would also have a high success rate for customers buying fruiting kits? Kitchen counter tech. The porcelain mushroom is one of my favorites. I'll be offering a version from Jake Howard fairly soon, just like we got the moon pearls. I start paying him next month, so that's pretty exciting. It's the first time I've actually got a hunter / breeder that will be getting a royalty for the strains that we're selling for him. And then we're just going to keep adding stuff for him. So hopefully he'll be getting quite the tidy paycheck over time. But he sent me a porcelain strain that he found in the wild. And that mushroom, the dish is ugly when it grows on there. But holy cow, I opened that plate and that it's got like a skin on the top. It's kind of weird. It's fleshy looking. It fruits really well in the bag. Onoki fruits really well in the bag. But that porcelain, man, when I opened that dish, my mouth, my salivatory glands started just dumping saliva. Like it was like I wanted to just eat that dish. It was crazy. Just the raw pull that petri dish had. Like it didn't look appetizing, but there was something about that smell that was just like everything was just eat it. So that's a good one, I think. The oysters are not that great, but enoki's great. Piopino's a good one for that. Chestnuts are amazing for that. So the chestnut mushroom is probably your best kit mushroom as far as you're going to do like that. You want to tell them to get it before the cap fully opens and starts dumping spores, or it'll be a purple slimy mess. That's not a problem. You'll still cook them. They'll just be ugly and they'll be slimy looking or slimy feeling, but they're still quite edible even with the spores on them. But they're better before the spore dump. So that would be the big thing. But I mean that most people I know nowadays just fruit their chestnuts in bag. Maybe they open it at the very end, but I mean, I stopped doing that whenever I was growing them. I don't grow chestnuts anymore. I just grow the spawn. I don't know. Maybe I'll start growing chestnuts again, but I'm allergic to them. You sterilize LC for that long? I read that much more than 15 minutes would overcook the sugars. You're not going to overcook the sugars. So here's where that comes from. Microbiology is mostly bacteriology and yeastology, whatever the name of that is. I forgot the study of yeast. But bacteria cannot break down complex molecules, stabilized molecules. They have a really hard time with it, which is why we stopped producing basically oil and coal once white rot fungus came on board, when it evolved. When white rot fungus came on the scene, all of a sudden, complex molecules like lignin started being eaten. Caramelized sugars are basically just stabilized complex molecules at this point, right? It's not the simple sugar anymore. It's now bound together in a chain, and I forgot the name of the process and everything. Like I'm starting to tire out. I'm between teaching the mentorships. I've had a ton of like phone meetings and stuff today, so I apologize for not having the words for it. But yeah, 15 minutes is not enough. People say that it is. If you want it to be reliable, it's just not enough. It's your sugar should not be, your LC should not be clear, in my opinion. Your LC should have an amber color to it. A, because the nutrition you're putting in it is going to have that kind of coloration, but B, it's also like I caramelize my sugars on purpose. Like a lot of people tell you not to do it, but if I was growing non-white rot fungus, then maybe I would care to cook it lower, shorter period of time and a lower temperature. But I don't. I cook it at 121 C or 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 psi for an hour and a half. Like I like my liquid culture to be quite dark. Yeah, and that's been very reliable for me. So I hope that explains how. And it's not that people are trying to give you bad advice, like the 15 minutes or whatever. It's like literally that most of the time they're coming from a place of bacteriology. They're coming from a place. Most microbiology, especially early microbiology, fungus is new, right? Like it's not new, but it's newish, relatively speaking. Especially mycology as a microbiology subject. And, we had mycology and like as a taxonomy subject. We've seen the fruits. The fruits are not usually microscopic, or at least not the ones we deal with. But the phallus, the body, is absolutely a collection of microbiological cells that just form a single organism, rather than like bacteria, where it's billions of organisms. And bacteria, basically they eat and excrete where they live. Unlike fungus, which can transport through networks. Mushrooms have very strong metabolites and enzymatic pathways that allow them to produce enzymes that like lactases that break down lignins. And then it's a very different kind of organism. So a lot of times when you're hearing the more common advice from places, it's because they're coming from that that bacteriology background. And if we come at it from a first principles aspect, it is really, what is this organism and what is this organism capable of? Therefore, how should we treat this organism? Not using common knowledge from a similar subject, but rather this is what it actually does. And this is like food coloring in the agar. I was talking about that earlier. I use that sometimes to identify bacterial colonies. You'll have your agar dish. You'll have your mycelium growing across. If it grows over a bacterial colony, for instance, the mycelium, that white rot fungus breaks down that food coloring like crazy. But then there'll be a little spot where the mycelium had to grow down around the bacterial colony underneath. So as you're looking at the dish, the white rot fungus has broken down this alcohol-based food coloring. Alcohol sugar, I think is what maybe. Could be wrong about that, but it's breaking this stuff down, but the bacteria has really kept it from being able to penetrate as quickly. So we can use that, like we can flip over the dish, be like, why is there a little circle of blue or green or whatever? You flip it back over, you hold it up to a light, you're like, I see that bacterial colony really easily. It's not necessary to identify stuff with it. It just makes it a really quick, like if you're studying a lot of dishes. Oh, no. No, I do not want a mouse in here. You take it back out. Sam? I think I'm going to go take care of this. She's had kittens, and she's trying to train the kittens to hunt mice, and she is amazing at it, but I don't want her bringing it in here to teach them. I would rather take them out there to her to teach them. Anyways. Mouse in the house, no kidding. Oh. Yeah, mice. Mice they'll mess a mushroom mop up. Which is why we have the cats. On the Pio in the bag, you cut the top off or make cuts only at the end. So Pio is you want the bag tight around the substrate, let it grow in the bag. When it starts getting kind of tall, you can just cut the top off and let it get fresh air, cap out. That's a good way to go. So, well, guys, I'm going to jump off here, take care of this. See if I can't get her out of here without letting that mouse go. And also, I'm starting to get some irritation in my throat. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thanks for all the questions. I'll be back, I think Saturday. I think I'm going to try to do one this weekend. So thank you, Mr. Greenfingers. You too, bird. Shit, a bird. Shit, a bird. Keeps funny.
Yo, Andrew in the lab coat, lantern, jaw, shadow, microscope, halo, petri dish, tableau, stir plate, cyclone, liquid gold, whirlpool, feeding spore scripture through the culture school. Samantha with the steady hand, razor like a plan, shaves a sliver off the egger like a desert wind can. Jars clink, hymns when the shelf choir hums, every lid's a sealed drum where mycelium comes. Keep spawning culture, roots in the rust belt soil, turn dust into kingdom with the clean room toil. From the block to the plate to the LC shine, every strand's got a story in the Mossy Creek mine. Yo, Mad Hat Hatchery, pink oysters, tap dance, lion's mane maneuvers with a heresy.